Bonjour, welcome to Wahsa Citizen Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is MEL3E, grade 11 workplace math, and I'm the teacher Bronwyn Slate. If you'd like to participate live today, you can call the Wahsa studio at 1-800-465-7144 or 737-4017. You can listen on the radio at 91.9 FM and also on the television at Bell Express View Channel 972. You're always welcome to join me live through the Zoom link, which is available from me, your teacher, and also your DEC. Our classes are scheduled from Monday through Thursday, 9 till 10 in the morning, and we are now in our 6th week of our 9-week course. A reminder at this point that you should definitely be submitting work for marking, and what you need to submit is not the support questions, not the ones with the little pencil icon. These are not for marking, these are practice problems. So you decide which ones and how many to do. If you're understanding a concept, feel free to skip any of these questions. Do what you think is what you need to do. You know yourself best, but also if you need more practice, please feel free to ask and I'm happy to send you more practice. The key questions, the ones with the little key icon, those are the ones to submit for marking. So please do all of these ones, show all of your work, your steps, your thinking. This way I can give you full credit for what it is that you understand. And if you are struggling with a concept, I'm able to support you with that. So how do you actually submit your work for marking? Well, there's 3 methods. The first method is to scan your work and send it in electronically. So you can scan your completed work in through a device. If you have an Apple device, the Notes app has a free scan function. And if you have an Android device, the Google Drive app has a free scan function. Both are fairly straightforward to use, and I'm happy to support you to figure out how to use those if you have those devices. However, if you do not have those devices or you don't have access to that, then you can also send me pictures, take pictures and send me, that's fine too. Just scans are a little bit easier for me to use and they're a little bit easier to send, they're smaller files. Then send them to me either by email to studentwork@nnec.owen.ca and cc to bronwyn.slate@nnec.owen.ca. Or you can also send it to me through Facebook Messenger, where my name is B. Slate Wahsa. The second method is to drop your work off in Sioux Lookout. We have an outdoor mailbox at our 74 Front Street location. We're the bright red building next to the post office, and we have a small white mailbox next to our side entrance. We're not yet open to the public, so please just put your work in that mailbox and I'll get it back to you as soon as I can. The third method is to hand your work into your DEC. Your DEC can either send your work through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. Students can also send in their work by fax if you have access to a fax machine. That's totally fine. So if you'd like to connect with me through social media, this is a great way to communicate. Both my Facebook profile and my YouTube channel are under the name B. Slate Wahsa. If you friend me on Facebook and subscribe to my YouTube channel, you'll get notifications every time that I upload one of our radio Zoom classes. They are all recorded and I upload them to YouTube shortly after broadcasting. So it's a really good place to, if you miss a lesson or if you are struggling with something and you want to go back and review it, slow it down. I cram a lot into a lesson, so it's understandable if you need to take pause and take breaks and do some practice questions. So connecting with me through social media just is a really easy way to access all of our course material. Also, on my YouTube channel, I have short videos that explain common errors and confusing concepts. So this is a really great place to go if you're struggling with something or if you keep making the same mistake and I've told you about it, I've notified you, I've let you know, and you want to see an actual explanation, I probably gave you an explanation or maybe give you a link, but seeing it live, or not live, but seeing a video of it where I'm talking it through and actually organizing the information sometimes is a lot easier than understanding a written explanation. So check out my YouTube channel for that sort of information as well. Math is a really, really visual subject, so I strongly encourage you to access the YouTube videos or join me live through Zoom. This is really going to set you up for the most success, so please figure out how you can do that. If you can't access the live Zoom or the YouTube channel because of unreliable internet, that totally is understandable. So just let me know and I'm happy to send you a copy of our recordings so that you can still have access to the full experience and really get the most out of this course. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out and contact me. I'm not necessarily always available at my desk, but I'm always happy to connect with you however makes the most sense for you. So I'm flexible and willing to work with you in order to figure out how I can support you. You could email me at bronwyn.slate, and that's spelled BRONWYN.SLATE at nnec.on.ca. Sorry. You can connect with me through Facebook, where my name again is B. Wahsa. Call me at the office at 807-737-1488, extension 2209, or toll free at 1-800-667-3703. My office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., though I'm happy to accommodate your schedule if that time doesn't work to connect. Just let me know and we can try to figure out something that works for both of us. All right, we are on to lesson 14 today, which is new and used vehicles. So our learning goals are that at the end of this lesson, you'll be able to interpret information about the cost of purchasing a new or used vehicle. You'll be able to describe the conditions that favor buying new and buying used vehicles, and you'll understand depreciation values. The success criteria of today are that you can list and calculate the costs associated with new and used vehicles. Sorry about that. And you can calculate how much new vehicles depreciate. So when we'll use this in real life? Well, we're improving our problem solving skills. Not necessarily everyone is actually going to buy a vehicle. You may or may not, but being able to problem solve is something that is going to happen in your life, no matter what you do, your relationships, no matter what. Problem solving is basically what we do as humans. So please, recognize that that's the skill that we're developing, along with understanding new and used vehicles and how they work as well, which is also an important skill. But first, let's activate our brain with some mental math. I'm not a fan of math minutes. They cause stress and anxiety when you're just set to sit silently at a desk and do as many math facts as you can within a minute. This doesn't develop skills or comfort with numbers. It just rewards speed and memorization. And that isn't the framework of what mathematics is. So we don't do that. Instead, we develop strategies and thinking, logical thinking about math facts and understanding why things work and using numbers that are comfortable and familiar to you, which is more the foundation of mathematics. So our question today is 121 take away 75, and we're using the strategy of constant difference. So how I like to do this is I like to think about this on a number line. So I'm going to draw myself a number line. Sorry, it does not have to be straight. Actually, that's just really low. Try that again. Okay. So what constant difference means is that we are thinking about the same space that is between the two numbers. So we're thinking about 75 and 121, and we're thinking about how much difference, how much space is between those two numbers. But that's not a really friendly number. Those aren't really numbers that really are like super comfortable. So what we're going to do is that we're going to shift our numbers. We're going to shift them one way or another way to figure out what is an amount that is the same. We're going to talk about the same distance. So I'm going to pick a different color and I'm going to say, okay, well, 121, I could shift this to 120, but I don't know if that's friendly enough for me. So I'm going to shift it all the way down to 100. And I'm going to say, okay, if I am at 100, so I shifted down 21. So that means I'm going to shift down 21 from here too. And that now gets me to 54. And this distance, now, because I'm drawing, this is not gonna be perfect. Ideally, I'd be able to like just pick it up and move it. But this distance is the same as this other distance. We haven't changed the distance. We're talking about the same thing. So I can say, okay, well, I can see from 54 to 100, that's a little bit friendlier. I know that, well, from 50 to 100 is going to be 50. But if I already have 4, that means I only need 46 to get from 54 to 100. So, and we know that that distance is the same as this other distance. They are this distance here that I just did, the 54 to 100, that is 46, is the same distance as the 75 to 121 because I shifted it the same amount. So that means that the distance between 75 and 121 is also 46. Now I could also have shifted up. I didn't have to just shift down. You can shift in any direction that makes you feel comfortable. So maybe it would have made sense to shift instead. I could have shifted up and said, okay, well, I'm going to shift up 25 to get to 100, which again, my scale is totally not perfect. So that's, but if I were to shift from the same idea, trying to think, would it have been easier for me to shift up and think, okay, well, I'm going to shift my 75 to 100. That means I'm going to shift, I went up 25. So if I go up 25 from 121 and I go up 25, that's going to be 146. And this distance is still the same. Well, I can see, oh, well, that distance is 46 because go from 100 to 146 is 46. So that means that between 75 and 121 is 46. So there isn't a right way to do it. You could have shifted. So this time we shifted 25. This time we shifted down 21. We could shift different things depending on what feels the most friendly to us. And we'll still always get the same answer of 46 because the difference between 121 and 75 is 46. So this idea of constant difference where we shift our numbers around at the same amount or the constant amount is going to say that we're getting the same amount. That makes sense. All right, that's a little bit of a different strategy than many that we've talked about before. So if it doesn't make quite sense to you, please feel free to reach out and connect with me. And I'm happy to walk through it with you again. All right, so mine's on. What are we going to get into today? What do we need to know? I just wanted to make sure that we could understand how to read a vehicle listing. So if you search it up online, there's lots of information that are on your vehicle listings. So it's just really important to be able to understand what is actually going on here. So I've found this online from Mazda in Sioux Lookout. And so it tells you what the vehicle is, the year of the vehicle. You have a picture often so that you know what it looks like. And then there's various fees and different information on here. So there is the MSRP, which is the actual price, and then a bunch of different fees that are on here. And so then they tell you what the total price is. So they tell you the administration fee, the nitrogen fee, the tire tax, the OMVIC fee, all of these are written down. And so then you figure out what actual cash you need, total amount that you actually need, because the price of the vehicle isn't the only thing. You need to pay a bunch of other fees usually. And then they show you here on this one, they show you if you're going to finance it or lease it, how much it's going to be. This one says BW, so that would be biweekly. So if you finance it, it's $247 biweekly. That's if you buy it and you're going to own it and you get the vehicle at the end, but you have to pay $247 biweekly. If you lease it, then it's $235 biweekly. But remember, that means we're going to talk about that in a minute, but leasing means that you don't actually own it. You're just kind of borrowing it and paying for the borrowing. Then you can click on these buttons and you'll find more information about those if sorry. If you want more details. So then here's another one. This is from Dingwall in Dryden. So again, they tell you the type of vehicle that is here. They give you a price. Now here, they just tell you $40,985. We don't know if that's just the list price or if this is with all the fees included. And that's always what's tricky, is that they give you one price and then there's often things added on top. Here, this condition, it's pre-owned. So this is a used vehicle and they tell you the kilometers, 16,892 kilometers. They tell you the engine type, so it's 3.2 liters. So these are all things that may be useful for you or may not, and you can always find more information, which may be helpful, but sometimes it's a really good idea to do some research before you actually go to a dealership, so you have some understanding about what it is that you're looking for and you understand what all of these different things mean. I am not a person who understands cars very well, so doing some research beforehand means that they're just not throwing words and numbers at me that don't make any sense at all to me. All right, so let's explore our new concepts today. What do we need to understand? So first, we're going to talk about new cars. This is on page 30 of your IO booklet. And new cars have numerous costs in addition to the sticker or base price. So this is what I was just talking about when we were looking at those listings, is that it's not just one number that includes everything. And we're not just talking about adding tax on, there's lots of things that we add on. So some of the extra costs are delivery price, or delivery cost, pre-delivery expense, administration fee, freight, pre-delivery inspection, dealer preparation. I don't know what all of these things mean. They kind of just seem like costs that are just, so you get a delivery expense, a pre-delivery expense, and a pre-delivery inspection. Like, it's just like, what? And then there's freight. Doesn't freight, to me, doesn't that mean the same thing as delivery? So again, I'm not a person who understands cars and buying cars, and so I don't really know what all these words mean. But I do know that the sticker price, the price that they put on the windshield of a vehicle, is not the only price I need to pay. Then there's also a fuel consumption tax for all new cars. If the car has air conditioning, then there's a $100 federal tax. There's a fuel charge because they have to put some gas into your tank when you purchase the vehicle. This is not taxed. If we think back to when we're talking about gasoline, right? The tax is already built in as part of the hidden tax that's already built in the price. And a license fee because they install the plates. So if they put the plates on your new vehicle, which happens more and more, they charge you for that. They're not doing that for free. They're just rolling it into the price of the vehicle. This also is not taxed. Everything else is taxed. So here, let's figure out the actual purchase price of this vehicle. So we have a Ford 150, which is this type of truck. So they have the base price, which is $54,675. That is the number that they're going to have written on the windshield. That is the base sticker price. They're saying how much it is. Then there's a $1,500 delivery charge. And this, I don't believe it. They're not delivering it to you. This is the delivery charge to the dealership. Then there's a $100 federal air conditioning tax because this vehicle has air conditioning. And then there's a $75 fuel tax just because as an environmental fuel tax. Then in your questions, then it's going to list HST. And it's going to be like, well, why is it in the middle? Because the licensing fee and the fuel that is just putting gas in the vehicle so you can drive off the lot, those are not taxed, remember? So they put the HST here to help you remember that this part is up here. HST applies to all of these vehicles, or these, prices, but not here. Okay, that's why the HST is in the middle of the list. So if we're going to figure out the total purchase price, we need to add up. First, we're going to add up the top things, and then we're going to find the HST, and then we're going to add the other two fees on as well. So let's go over to our Desmos and we're going to say, okay, 54,675 plus 1,500 plus 100 plus 75 equals, sorry, I'm having some tech issues today, 56,350. So that's how much we need to figure out the tax on. So then we're going to figure out the tax. Remember HST in Ontario is 13%. This is why you need to do those previous lessons because tax keeps coming up. So we're going to do 56,350 times 0.13 for tax. So again, we're going to do that on Desmos. So the tax you're going to pay is $7,325.50. Okay, so then the total is going to be the 56,350 plus the tax, $7,325.50 plus the $40 licensing fee plus the $75 fuel fee. So we're going to add all of those together. So add those all together and we get $63,790.50. Okay, so that's how we figure out what they're actually going to charge us. So when you look at the price on the vehicle that's on the windshield, which is what they often do when it's 54,675, great. But by the end of it, you're paying $63,790.50. So it's almost $10,000 more dollars than what it says on the price. So this is why it's really important to remember or understand all of these fees, that they exist. Even if you don't understand exactly what they are, understanding that they exist helps you realize what the real cost of buying a new vehicle is. Great. Now you can do the support questions on page 31, questions 1 to 3. So the next thing we're going to talk about in terms of new vehicles is depreciation. So depreciation, and this is on page 32 of your IL booklet, refers to the rate at which your car loses its value from the first year you bought it. In fact, the cost of your car drops as soon as you drive it off the dealership lot. So we just in that question, your car, that truck was worth $54,675 when you were buying it. As soon as you drive away, it immediately drops in value. It's no longer worth $54,675. It's no longer new. New is pristine, never been owned before. Now that you own it and you drive it away, it loses value. It's a weird part of capitalism. So here in Canada, the average vehicle, this graph shows us the average vehicle in Canada over 5 years of depreciation. So remember, depreciation is losing the value that you are losing. So in year 0, when you first own it, it has 100%. When you first buy it, it has 100% value. Then by year 1, you've already lost 34. You've already lost 34%. A third of that, of the original value is lost. It's gone. By the end of year 2, 43% now is lost. By year 3, 51%. So owning your vehicle for 3 years, it's already half the value. It's worth half the amount of money that you paid for it. This is not how much you paid. This is how much that is, if you're trying to sell it, again, it is only worth half the amount that you paid for it. By year 4, it's 59%, and by year 5, it is 67% lost. So you've lost 2/3 of the value of the vehicle by the 5th year that you own that vehicle. It is only now worth 1/3 of what you paid for it. This is pretty crappy in terms of an investment. It really is frustrating. So how we actually calculate this, let's do an example so I can walk you through it. So determine the value of a car sold new at $43,950 that has a depreciation rate of 49% after 4 years. So the tricky thing with this is here they're telling you your depreciation rate and they're saying after 4 years, but that doesn't really matter to us in terms of what we're trying to really find out is the value at the end of the 4 years, which this number, this 49% is telling us the whole thing. We're not saying that it's 49% per year. We don't have to do it times 4 or anything like that. We just do it the 49%. They did give us the whole depreciation rate. Okay. So to figure out, so that's how much is lost. 49% is how much is lost. So to figure out the value of the car, we can do this in 2 different ways. All right. So the first way we can do it is that we can just figure out how much that is and subtract it. So we can say, okay, well, $950 times 49%. So that's $43,950 times 0.49. Again, this is why it's really important to be comfortable with changing percents into decimals because it keeps happening. So do that on a calculator. Equals $21,535.50. So what does that number mean? That is how much is lost value. So to figure out the value of the car at this point, we need to subtract. So the true value now, we need to do $43,950 take away $21,535.50. So we have to actually subtract that off because that is what we've lost in value. That's what the depreciation means. So depreciation means the amount that you've lost. So to figure out how much your vehicle still is worth is $23,414.50. So that's how much your vehicle is now worth because we've lost. So we had to take our original value, subtract the value that we lost, and this is our true value now. So that is the first way that you can do it, is that you can just figure out how much you've lost, and then you can subtract it. The second method, you can subtract your rate from 1. So if you think about it, 100% take away 49% is going to give you the true value, right? So it's going to say, if it originally held 100% value, if we take away 49%, that's the value that we've lost. So what's left with is the true value of our cost now. So how that looks in our in a formula is that we can have like our value is equal to our price times 1 take away our rate. So because remember our rate is a decimal, that's why we say 1 and not 100, because 100% as a decimal is 1. So if we're doing it, so 1 take away 0.49 is the same as 100% take away 49%. So 1 take away 0.49 is going to be 0.51, 51%. And so we can then calculate that on our calculator. So our original value, our price, 43,950 times 0.51 for that 51%, that is what it's still worth, which is $22,414.50, which is what we calculated in our method, our first method. So as you can see, these are two different methods of getting the exact same thing. It's getting you the same answer, you're just doing it in two different ways. Here you're calculating how much you're losing first, and then you're subtracting it. Here you're subtracting the percentage that you've lost, and then you're calculating how much the true value is. They are exactly the same thing. You can do either one, whichever way makes more sense for you is totally fine. Whichever way clicks for you, just do what makes sense for you. But both ways are totally get you the same answer, the same information. All right, so now you're able to do the support questions on page 33, question number 4 that talks about depreciation. Okay, so that's what new cars are. So understanding the costs involved in new cars and the depreciation value lost in new cars. Now we're going to look at used cars. And this is on page 33 of your IL booklet. So why might you buy a used car? Why might it be the right choice for you? We just talked about how new cars depreciate, so you lose that value really, really quickly. You can worry less about minimum damage because your vehicle already has lost a lot of that value because so a little bit of damage isn't going to impact the worth of the vehicle because it doesn't have all of that depreciation value to be losing as well. You can spend the same amount of money and get more car. So if you're going to spend $20,000 on a new car, that's only going to give you a very limited option. Whereas you're spending $20,000 on a used car, you might get a nicer car with more features or better safety or something like that because it's a couple of years old and it's lost that depreciation value. And so it's now not worth as much, but your money now your money can get you more car. You get a certified pre-owned option. So this means getting a peace of mind. So this tells you about what has happened with a vehicle before and that it's like there aren't any recalls or there aren't any issues with the vehicle. Whereas if you're buying a new car, you might not necessarily know if they might not know yet if there's issues that are coming up with it. You get vehicle history reports, which tell you who's it's belonged to in general. They don't tell you people's names, but you say, oh, this was a rental car before, or oh, this was a personal car before. And it tells you, oh, these are how many accidents it's been in, none, or oh, it's been in 15 accidents. Maybe I don't want to buy that one. You pay less for insurance. So we've talked about vehicle insurance in our last lesson. And so having a used car, is less to replace for the insurance company if it's to get into an accident. So you pay less for that privilege. Your registration fees are cut down. So those extra fees that you have to pay are less. There are still some extra costs. So just because it's a used car doesn't mean all of those extra fees go away. So in Ontario, you need to have a safety standard certificate. So people can't just sell you a vehicle that is not safe. It has to be safetied. It has to make sure that it is safe to be on the road, and that costs money. It also needs a drive clean emission test, also called an e-tested. So this is making sure that it's not such an old vehicle that it's going to be adding extra emissions. Obviously, all vehicles, all diesel and gas vehicles have emissions, and that's a concern. But some of them vehicles that are really, really old and the engines are old technology means that they're going to be even worse than because they don't have that new improvements, which is part of the vehicle industry. So we need to be tested to make sure that it's not adding extra emissions into the atmosphere. Then also, if there's an extended warranty, that is something that you might get to choose, and that would be extra cost. And then there are HST on sales if you buy it from a used car lot. If you buy it from a personal transaction where you're just buying it with a person, there is an HST there. But if you're buying it from a car lot, then you do have to pay HST at that point. And then PST is only on private sales. So if you are buying a private sale with just an individual person, you do end up having to pay PST of 8% on those sales. GST is not charged on private sales, and so that is going to be added on slightly differently. You have to pay that to the government, not to the person that you are buying it from. And then there's a license fee, which is still not taxed, and the fuel fee, which is still not taxed. Again, if you are buying this from these fees, you're going to have to pay either way, depending on if you're buying them from a used car lot, and that might be included in your price, or if you have to pay them on top if you're buying it from a private sale, then you still have to pay those things. You just don't pay them to that person. You have to pay them you have to go to other places and get your gas and to go get your license plate. All right, so let's look at an example. So Kai is going to buy a used vehicle from an auto dealer. So this is not a private sale. This is a auto dealer sale. The price, including certification and e-testing, is $39,950. So sometimes in used vehicles, they include some of your testing that needs to be done in the price. The license fee is $40 and the fuel fee is $65. Kai also takes the extended warranty for $1,000 plus HST. What is the total purchase price? So we need to figure out what the price is, and then we need to calculate the GST, and then we need to add in the parts that are not taxed. So the parts that are taxed are the $39,950 and the $1,000 in extended warranty. So that's going to be $40,950. So then our HST on that, we're going to do 40,950 times 0.13, because remember, we always do 13% because we're in Ontario. So HST is always 13%. So we calculate that, 40,950 times 0.13 is equal to $5,323.50. So then the total purchase price is going to be the 40,950, because we don't need to break apart the two pieces. We can just add it all together, plus the tax, $5,323.50, plus the license fee of $40, plus the $65 fuel fee. This is a lower fuel fee because it is a smaller vehicle. It's not because it's used or anything. They're going to charge you different fuel fees just because whatever makes sense for the vehicle and for the dealership. So add those together and we get $46,378.50. 46,378.50. And that is the total purchase price for this vehicle that Kai is going to purchase. And that's how you figure it out. Okay, so then Junie is buying a used car privately. The car price is $11,141 plus certification, because you still need to put it on top, plus emissions testing, which you need to do, plus those things have HST, and then there's PST on the car price. So this is tricky because we have to do HST on some things and PSTs on other things. So we're doing HST on certification and the e-test. Those, because you're not actually doing those with the private person, you're doing those somewhere else. So $95 plus $37.50 is equal to is equal to $132.50. So to find the HST on that, we do 132.50 times 0.13, which is $17.23. So the total over here is going to be 132.50 plus 17.23, which is going to be $149.73. Okay, so then the PST is just on the, PST is just on the price of the actual vehicle. Remember, you're paying that to the government. You're not paying that to the person you're buying it from. So the $11,141 times 0.08, because PST we said is 8% always for this. So we do that multiplication and we get $891.28. So then the total, what you're going to pay in total, actual total, not just the, so the actual cost you're going to pay the $11,141 to the person that you're buying the vehicle for. Then you're going to pay the $891.28 to the provincial government. Then you're going to pay $149.73 for the other certification and testing that you needed to do. So if you add all of those together, then you can see that this is what actually going to cost you $12,182.01. So obviously this is cheaper. I'm not saying that every single private sale is always going to be cheaper. Just happens that it's cheaper because the price of the vehicle was lower. So often private sales can be lower. Yes, there are other fees that are not included, so that can contribute to it, but the price of the vehicle makes it lower. And so that's just something to include. I'm not saying that always buying a used private vehicle is the best option just because it's the cheapest option, just in my examples. It just happened to be that way for the numbers that made sense. All right, so now you can do the support questions on page 35, questions 5 and 6. Okay, let's consolidate what we've learned today. So we've been doing lesson 14, which is new and used vehicles. So with new cars, you get exactly what you want, but it's expensive. So you can pick the color, you can pick the various features on it. So you get lots of choice, but you're pay for that, having that choice. There are extra costs like delivery and administration fees, and it depreciates as soon as it's off the lot. So as soon as you own it, you are losing value. So then remember that depreciation is the rate that a new vehicle loses value. So how fast a new vehicle loses value, and this is different per vehicle. So it's something that you can look up online. I don't expect you to have this memorized. This might be something that makes sense to your brain, and so this sort of information might stick in your brain. That's totally fine. It does not for me. So it's information you can totally look up and see, okay, this vehicle, this truck depreciates at a rate of this much, how fast it loses value, whereas this car has a lower depreciation rate. Things like that you can look up to figure out if, when you're buying a new vehicle, if that's a decision you want to make, you can do that research. Generally, it's about 50% by 4 years of ownership. So if you have a vehicle for 4 years, you've bought a vehicle and it's 4 years old, so you've bought a new vehicle and it's 4 years old, then it's probably only about 50% worth of the original value. With used cars, they can be cheaper. So this is why it can be a really great option to buy it if you're financially, you need a cheaper option, but they may require repairs. So a new vehicle in theory does not require any repairs because it's brand new, whereas a used vehicle, you might need to fix it up. And also because it's older, it might need more repairs just because of use. That makes sense. There are still extra costs like safety and e-testing, which you need to pay whether or not you're doing a private sale or a buying it from a used car lot. You still, it needs to be safety and e-tested. That may be included if it's on a used car lot in the price that they're offering you. It may not be. These are things to ask about. Don't assume just because I've said it that that's the way that every car dealership does it. They're going to be different. Always. Every place is going to be different. Just be aware of these options. So hopefully you can list and calculate the costs associated with new and used vehicles. I'm not assuming that you know or you're going to be able to say every time what all of the costs are. This is just not realistic. There's no way to know what. But this is just if you are thinking of buying a new or used vehicle and they're giving you the prices, you can ask and you can say, what are the extra fees? And that you have that information that you know that there are extra fees and what types of fees there might be. And then also you can calculate how much a new vehicle depreciates. Again, this is just really important to understand the value that is being lost if you're buying a new vehicle. All right, and that is our class for today. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of the options for buying vehicles. If you have any questions, of course, please contact me and I'm here and happy to support. You can call me at the office at 807-737-1488, extension 2209. You can call toll free also at 1-800-667-3703. Connect with me through email, where my email address is bronwyn.slate, and that is spelled BRONWYN.SLATE@nnec.owen.ca. Or connect with me through social media at Facebook, where my name is B-Slate Wahsa, or YouTube, where my channel is called B-Slate Wahsa as well. All of our radio Zoom classes have been recorded and uploaded to YouTube under a playlist called MEL3E. So you can find them all there and go back to whatever it is that you need. My office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So please reach out to me within that time if you want to talk to me directly. Otherwise, leave me a message or send me an email, and I'm happy to connect with you outside of that time if you want to talk to me directly, or we can also just communicate through digital means. Is totally fine. That works for me completely. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a lovely day. Which